Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are really thrilled to have you here with us today.
Yeah, it's great to be back. We've got a really interesting one today.
We really do. So our mission for this session is to take this set of, highly clinical academic sources and basically extract a toolkit from it.
Right, a toolkit that you can actually use in your everyday life.
Exactly. To understand why you do what you do and how to take back control when you feel totally stuck.
Which I think we all feel sometimes.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
So today we're exploring this really fascinating textbook chapter by Robert E. Webolding. It breaks down a psychological approach called reality therapy.
Right, and the underlying engine of that therapy, which is known as choice theory, that was originally developed by the psychiatrist William Glasser.
Yeah, William Glasser.
Mhm.
So to kick things off, I want you, the listener, to just imagine for a second that you're walking into a typical therapist's office.
Oh, okay, setting the scene.
Right, because usually there's a pretty standard expectation for how this goes.
Okay.
There's the comfortable couch, the box of tissues on the table.
The obligatory ticking clock.
Yes. And the assumption that you are about to spend the next hour, and maybe honestly the next several years, just excavating your childhood.
Right, digging through past traumas to figure out the root cause of, well, why you are the way you are.
Exactly. It's like,
It's almost an archaeological approach to mental health, really.
that's a perfect way to put it.
Because the prevailing cultural belief is that understanding the historical why is basically the only master key to fixing the present problem.
And it feels good, right?
Yeah, it offers a certain kind of comfort to think that our current struggles are mostly the result of past events or, subconscious drives that exist completely outside of our immediate control.
But the sources we're looking at today, they just completely flip that entire script.
They really do.
Imagine sitting down and the therapist looks at you and says, we actually aren't going to spend much time talking about your past at all.
Right. We aren't going to blame your parents.
We are going to blame your environment. We're only going to talk about right now, today, and the specific choices you are making.
It represents this radical, almost, jarring shift in perspective.
Totally jarring.
Glasser actually developed this framework while he was working in correctional institutions and psychiatric hospitals back in the 1960s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and he was trained in traditional psychoanalytic methods, but he started noticing this really frustrating pattern with his clients.
What kind of pattern?
Well, even when his clients achieved this profound, tearful insight into their past traumas, their daily lives didn't necessarily improve.
Wait, really? So the insight didn't fix the behavior?
Exactly. They still struggled to make productive decisions out in the real world.
So they basically knew the tragic backstory of their misery, but they were still waking up miserable every single day.
Precisely. And that realization right there, that's the bedrock of reality therapy.
Right.
The approach operates on the principle that, yes, while the past undeniably shapes us, it absolutely does not determine our future.
It focuses entirely on the present.
Right. On personal responsibility and on this core idea that all human behavior is purposeful. We aren't just reacting randomly to the world.
We're acting to fulfill specific needs.
Always. Universal needs.
So if every action we take is on purpose, we kind of need to understand what that underlying purpose actually is, right?
Right. What's driving the machine?
Yeah, and the sources outline these 5 universal human needs that literally drive everything we do. It's like this biological engine just humming in the background.
And they're conceptualized almost like genetic drives, built right into our DNA.
Okay, so what are they?
So they are survival, belonging, or love, power.
With power. Like
Great.
tyrannical control over people?
No. Good clarification. The text clarifies that power here means inner control, achievement, or competence, not, being a dictator.
Okay, got it.
Then there's freedom. And finally, fun.
Right. And every single thing we do, from waking up to going to sleep, is an attempt to satisfy one or more of those 5 buckets.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to unpack this because the first 4, they make total intuitive sense to me.
Right.
Survival, obvious. Belonging and love, sure, we're social creatures. Power is competence, freedom is autonomy. We get all that.
Yeah.
But fun,
You're skeptical of fun.
it just stopped me in my tracks. It feels completely out of place next to something heavy like survival. I mean, isn't fun just a luxury?
A lot of people think that.
Like it's a bonus if you have some free time on a random Saturday.
Yeah.
Not a fundamental human drive.
It's super tempting to dismiss fun as this frivolous luxury, but choice theory elevates it to an actual biological necessity.
Really?
Yeah, William Glasser has this wonderful quote that encapsulates the mechanism perfectly. He said, "The shortest distance between two people is a laugh."
Oh, I love that. That's a brilliant way to frame it.
Isn't it? Fun is intrinsically linked to learning and to relationship building. I mean, think about how children learn about the world and social boundaries.
It's all through play.
Entirely through play. And in adults, fun is basically the lubricant for social connection.
That makes a lot of sense.
When clients in therapy have lost the capacity to have fun, it severely impacts their need for belonging. You just can't build trust or intimacy without shared joy.
So it isn't just goofing off. It's a requirement for a resilient life.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're all walking around trying to fill these 5 buckets.
Yeah.
But the obvious complication here is that what fills the fun bucket for me might be absolute torture for someone else.
Oh, absolutely.
My idea of good time is vastly different from, say, my teenage nephews.
Right, and that discrepancy introduces one of the most powerful concepts in choice theory. It's called the quality world.
The quality world.
Yeah, think of your quality world as this highly curated mental picture album that you keep inside your head.
Okay.
Starting from when you're an infant, you begin storing very specific images, people, beliefs, situations, anything that has successfully satisfied your needs in the past.
So if the 5 needs are the universal hardware that every human shares,
Right?
then the quality world is the unique software that I've programmed for myself.
That is a great analogy, yes.
Yep.
The universal need might be belonging, but the specific picture in your quality world that satisfies that need could be your spouse, a community group, or even, a beloved pet.
It's the specific wants that fulfill the general needs.
Exactly.
Applying this to everyday life, it honestly explains so much human friction.
Oh, it explains almost all of it.
Like, let's say you and your partner are planning a weekend. In your mental picture album, your quality world, a fulfilling weekend that hits your need for freedom and fun, is sitting in absolute silence, reading a novel.
A perfectly valid picture for fulfilling those needs, by the way.
Right. But your partner's quality world picture for belonging and fun is hosting a chaotic, loud dinner party with 12 people.
Uh-oh.
Right. And suddenly, you are in a massive argument on a Thursday night. But
Yeah.
you aren't actually arguing about the logistics of the weekend.
No, you're experiencing a violent collision of two completely different quality worlds.
And the friction comes from this deep-seated belief that our quality world is the correct one.
Yes. We spend an enormous amount of energy trying to force other people to behave in ways that match the pictures in our own head.
It's so true.
Reality therapy helps people recognize that their specific wants are clashing with reality, and it guides them to adjust their own behavior rather than trying to, coerce everyone around them.
So if our behaviors are just attempts to make the real world match our mental picture album, how do we actually construct a behavior?
Well, the text introduces this concept called total behavior.
Right. Total behavior.
Choice theory views all behavior as total behavior, which is made up of 4 interconnected components that are always running simultaneously.
What are the 4 parts?
They are doing, which refers to your active physical actions, thinking, so your cognition and voluntary thoughts, feeling, your emotions, and physiology, which is your bodily reactions, like a racing heart or sweating.
Okay, here's where I really have to push back on the source material a bit.
Let's hear it.
The text claims that all of this total behavior is a choice.
It does?
I can understand choosing my doing or choosing my thinking, but how can anyone choose their physiology or their feelings?
It's a tough pill to swallow.
Right. Nobody wakes up and chooses to have a debilitating migraine. Nobody chooses to have a panic attack or to feel overwhelmingly depressed. Claiming that those are choices, it just feels incredibly dismissive of people's genuine suffering.
I had the exact same reaction when I first analyzed this part of the theory. It sounds incredibly insensitive at first glance.
It really does.
But choice theory absolutely does not claim that a person sits down and actively decides, I think I'll experience a panic attack today.
Okay, so how does it work then?
To explain the mechanism, the text borrows this brilliant analogy from control systems theory. It's the thermostat.
The thermostat in your house.
Exactly. Think about how it operates. You can't walk up to a thermostat and directly, instantly change the ambient temperature of the room just by wishing it to be warmer.
Right, you don't control the room directly.
What you do control are the settings. You set the dial to 72 degrees. That dial is your want, your quality world picture.
Okay, I'm following.
If the actual room temperature is 60 degrees, There's a gap between what you want and what you're experiencing.
And when there's a gap, the system kicks on to close it.
The furnace activates. In this analogy, your behavior is the furnace. You are acting upon the world to try and make it match your internal thermostat.
So I don't control the heat directly, just the furnace.
Right. Within that total behavior system, you don't have direct conscious control over your feelings or your physiology, but you do have direct, almost total control over your doing and your thinking.
It kind of makes me think of driving a manual transmission car.
Oh, how so?
Well, you don't have a button that directly controls the exact RPMs of the engine, right?
Yeah.
But you do have direct control over your foot on the gas pedal and your hand on the gear shift.
Yes.
And if you change what you're doing with your hands and feet, the RPMs of the engine are basically forced to follow suit.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. You change the physiological and emotional temperature of your life by adjusting the mechanical actions, the steering, and the pedals that you actually control.
Wow. Understanding that mechanical linkage, I think it leads to what is honestly the most fascinating quirk in this entire chapter.
The language shift.
Yes. Because reality therapists believe we're constantly generating behavior to meet our needs, they fundamentally change how they use language with their clients.
They use verbs instead of adjectives.
It's so subtle, but it completely rewires how we perceive our own suffering.
It really does.
Like, instead of a client coming in and saying, I am depressed, or the therapist diagnosing them as being an anxious person, the therapist will say the client is depressing or anxietizing.
Turning heavy, static conditions into active verbs.
Right. But I'd imagine the psychological resistance to this shift is massive. People probably prefer the adjective.
Oh, usually they hate it at first. People cling to the adjective.
Why is that, though?
Yeah.
Why would someone prefer to be depressed?
Because an adjective absolves you of responsibility.
Oh.
If you say, I am depressed, it sounds like you caught a virus or, a piano fell on you from a third-story window.
You're a passive victim to an affliction.
Exactly. But if you say, I am depressing, it implies an active process that you are currently engaged in.
It forces you to acknowledge that you are playing a role in your own state of being.
Yes.
And as uncomfortable as that is, the flip side is pure empowerment. Because if I'm the one actively generating this behavior, it means I have the agency to choose a different behavior.
Exactly. It completely removes the helpless victim mentality. It communicates to the client, hey, you are actively generating this behavior right now because it's the best way you currently know how to deal with the frustration of your needs not being met.
Right.
And once we establish that you are generating it, we can figure out how to generate something that actually works better.
The theory is incredibly elegant. The thermostat, the picture album, the verbs. But when you are stuck in a rut, theory isn't enough.
No, you need a method.
We need to know how to actually apply this. And the sources detail a practical toolkit used by counselors, which is structured around the acronym WDEP.
WDEP. It serves as a practical roadmap for change. It stands for wants, direction and doing, evaluation, and planning.
Okay, let's walk through it. The W stands for wants. This is where the therapist explores the client's quality world, right? Like, what do you actually want from your job, from your spouse?
Right. And surprisingly, defining the W is often the hardest part of the whole process.
Really?
Yeah. Most people walk into a therapist's office or just navigate their daily lives knowing exactly what they don't want.
Oh, for sure. I hate my commute. I hate my boss.
Exactly. But when you ask them to articulate a specific positive picture of what they do want, they just draw a blank. So clarifying that target is the mandatory first step.
Got it. And once you know the target, we move to D, which is direction and doing.
Right. The therapist asks, what are you actually doing right now? They look at the overall trajectory of the person's life and the specific micro actions they take every day.
Mapping out the doing sets the stage for E, which is evaluation.
And I cannot stress this enough, the evaluation phase is the absolute cornerstone of the entire system. Without ruthless self-evaluation, there is zero potential for change.
The cognitive dissonance of this step must be intense because the central question of the evaluation phase, and honestly, everyone listening should write this down and stick it to their bathroom mirror. The question is what you are choosing to do right now helping you get what you want?
It's so simple, but it cuts entirely through the noise. It bypasses all the complex excuses and the tendency to blame other people. It just demands a cold, hard look at effectiveness.
Right. Is your current behavior bringing you closer to your goal or driving you further away?
But the textbook actually provides this highly relatable case study of a 14-year-old boy in counseling.
Right, the teenager.
He had this chronic habit of acting out, getting in trouble, and endlessly repeating this sad story about how awful his life was. He was just completely stuck in a loop of negative actions.
He's trying to fulfill his needs, I assume.
Exactly. Likely the need for connection, belonging, maybe some inner control. But he was choosing behaviors that were incredibly ineffective at getting him those things.
And the counselor didn't just sit there and validate his complaints, right?
Yeah.
Nor did they just slap a diagnosis on him.
No, they guided him right into that ease phase. He had to look at his own actions and basically endure the realization of, wow, the way I'm acting is guaranteeing that I stay miserable.
Ouch.
Yeah. But once he made that self-evaluation, he decided to change his doing. And it didn't require a massive life overhaul.
What did he do?
He literally just decided to open the blinds in his bedroom to let the light in. He started making rudimentary plans to interact with friends. He shifted his physical actions, and his feelings eventually followed.
That is amazing. And that transition really highlights the final step, P, which is planning. Because recognizing that your behavior isn't working is a breakthrough, but you have to plan a new behavior to replace it.
You do. And the text is very clear that a plan will fail if it isn't structured correctly. They use another acronym for this, SAMIC.
Let's explore the mechanics of SAMIC, because a bad plan is honestly often worse than no plan at all. So the S stands for simple.
Right. Complex plans fail because they introduce way too many variables. If a client is deeply struggling, a 15-step morning routine is going to collapse by day 2. It needs to be fundamentally uncomplicated.
Makes sense. A is for attainable. I imagine this prevents the psychological defeat of overreaching. Like, if you haven't exercised in a year, planning to run a marathon next month is just setting yourself up to fail.
Exactly, and that just reinforces your negative feelings. Then M is measurable. You need concrete data to evaluate. I want to be nicer is not a plan. I will compliment my coworker once a day before noon is measurable. You either did it or you didn't.
Nice. A is immediate. You have to execute it soon. Otherwise, you fall into the trap of perpetual procrastination. I'll start trying to fix my marriage next month. Means nothing changes today.
Right. And the final letter, C, is perhaps the most difficult to accept. It stands for controlled by the planner.
This one is vital. You cannot make a plan that relies on someone else changing their behavior.
Never works.
Let's say you have a deeply toxic, difficult boss. Your plan cannot be, I am going to have a meeting with my boss and make them realize they need to be kinder to me.
Yeah.
That completely violates the C in SAMIC. You do not control your boss.
No, your plan must reside entirely within your own sphere of agency. So a valid plan would be, when my boss raises their voice tomorrow, I will calmly state that I will return to the conversation when we can speak professionally, and I will physically walk out of the room. You control your words and your feet.
I love that. But I do want to stress test this entire framework for a minute.
Okay, let's go.
It is very easy for us to sit here and talk about, evaluating your choices and taking responsibility when life is relatively stable.
Sure.
It makes sense for a clashing weekend plan or a teenager acting out or dealing with an annoying boss. But how does this hold up in a messy, difficult, genuinely tragic reality?
It's the most important stress test you can apply to any therapeutic model, and the sources anticipate this. They provide a very heavy case study to explore its limits.
Yeah, the text introduces the case of Clarita. She is a mother dealing with severe domestic violence. She's experiencing profound psychological distress, suicidal ideation, and she operates within strict cultural and religious constraints that forbid her from seeking a divorce.
She feels utterly trapped in a nightmare. She has almost zero control over her external environment, and she's enduring immense ongoing harm.
Right. And my immediate thought reading this was the sheer danger of applying reality therapy here.
Yeah.
Like, how does a therapist navigate this without being horribly dismissive?
It's a very delicate
You
line.
cannot look at a victim of severe abuse and say, well, you're choosing to be abused. Let's look at your verbs and evaluate your choices. That would be incredibly damaging, almost gaslighting.
A skilled reality therapist would never approach it that way. The text places a massive emphasis on the therapeutic environment. Before a counselor ever introduces the WDEP system, the absolute prerequisite is establishing a highly supportive, trusting relationship.
Okay.
The therapist must avoid what are called toxic behaviors.
Toxic behaviors being things like blaming, criticizing, arguing, or demanding that the client change immediately.
Right. You cannot skip to evaluation when someone is actively bleeding, emotionally speaking. The therapist relies heavily on tonic behaviors, immense empathy, active listening, suspending all judgment, and creating a truly safe harbor.
So for Clarita, the therapist isn't there to judge her religious beliefs or blame her for staying in the house.
Not at all.
They're there to validate her profound pain while gently trying to locate whatever small sliver of agency she still possesses.
Exactly. And once that trust is built, the focus shifts entirely to what she wants and what she can control in the immediate term.
Right, because she can't control her husband's violence.
Trying to plan for him to stop is not a Samic plan.
No.
So the therapist helps her translate her overwhelming complaints into actionable wants. When she says, "I feel like I'm sinking in quicksand," the therapist might ask, "What is one small thing you want to happen today to feel slightly safer? What are your options right now?"
The text mentions exploring options within her specific constraints. So instead of pushing for a divorce, which would violate her religious boundaries and cause more distress, the therapist helps her evaluate what she is willing to do.
Right. Would she be open to exploring an annulment? Would she consider calling a specific support group?
The overarching goal is empowerment in the darkest of places.
Reality therapy helps Clarita find her agency within her specific cultural and environmental realities. By focusing purely on the doing and the thinking that she can control, like choosing to formulate a safety plan or choosing to make one phone call, she begins to regain an internal sense of momentum.
It pulls her out of the paralysis of just waiting for the external world to magically fix itself.
It doesn't minimize the fact that she is in a terrible situation, but it insists that she's the only one who can press the gas pedal to start moving out of it. She finds the steering wheel again.
Wow. Let's synthesize all of this for you, the listener. We've explored the idea that human behavior is always purposeful. Everything you do is a tom. Total behavior aimed at fulfilling your genetic needs for survival, belonging, power, freedom, and fun.
And we've also unpacked the reality that while we cannot change our history, and we absolutely cannot force other people into our quality world, we do possess immense untapped control over our own doing and thinking. We are the active authors of our present behavior.
The most practical, immediate tool you can walk away with today is the E in the WDEP system, the evaluation phase.
Whenever you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or find yourself repeatedly complaining about the exact same situation, I highly encourage you to pause and ask yourself that central piercing question: is what I am choosing to do right now getting me closer to what I genuinely want?
And if the answer is no, you have the power to construct a new Samic plan, a plan that is simple, attainable, measurable, immediate, and controlled entirely by you.
Absolutely.
But before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought drawn directly from the intervention strategies in this chapter. The textbook details how doing the unexpected in therapy can often act as a profound psychological pattern interrupt.
Oh, this is a great concept. When a client expects to spend the session analyzing their failures and basically wallowing in their adjectives, a therapist might suddenly pivot and focus entirely on a personal strength or a time when the client succeeded. It breaks the circuit of negative expectation.
Right. We spend so much of our daily lives mentally excavating our past mistakes, trying to figure out why we are so flawed. What would happen if, just for today, you instituted a pattern interrupt on yourself? What if you completely stopped analyzing your past, stopped trying to solve the grand mystery of your flaws, and did the unexpected focusing entirely on the one positive action you have the power to choose in this exact moment?